Don't go anywhere. The St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office is about to go 10-8. Welcome to 10-8, your inside view of the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office. I'm your host, Sergeant Chris Ciccio. One of the major problems that we face today in our society is the topic of bullying, especially in our schools. And with the advent of modern technology such as texting, we see cyberbullying start to take place. So here to talk with us again today is Kelly Starling from AT&T. Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And you are also, we talked to you before about the It Can Wait initiative, and now we're going to talk a little bit about ways to stop bullying, and AT&T is involved with that. So tell us about your involvement with that.
Well, we've gone around to classrooms and talked to kids overall about wireless broadband, the good ways it can be used and also the bad ways it can be used. And we talked to them about, cyberbullying and text bullying. 9 out of 10 teens today have smartphones, and 1 in 5 of those will become victims of text bullying. Verbal and traditional bullying have been around since probably the beginning of time, but now cyberbullying and text bullying are much more prevalent because so many kids are carrying, these devices in their hands. And it's reported that 1 in 4 kids is bullied on a regular basis at school. So there are tools, ways you can use technology to help protect your child from bullying, like text bullying and cyberbullying, and they're at the fingertips of parents. So there's apps out there that are free to them that they can download to their child's device that will help them prevent that.
Well, before we get into those apps, do you think that the reason why text bullying is so much more prevalent is because there's a little bit of distance between the perpetrator and the victim, so to speak, that there's no confrontation with that? There's some distance here. I can be safe and text what I want to say rather than say it in person.
It could be. That's one of the key reasons. Also the fact that, again, so many kids have these devices on them, and you can do it really at any time of the day versus doing the physical face-to-face bullying. And it's sad because there's been some prominent cases in the media recently where some kids have taken their own life, like the Rebecca Sedgwick case, because they've been bullied so much using cyberbullying or text bullying. And inappropriate sexting has become an issue as well. So it's definitely a big problem, and I do think that maybe, like you said, for some bullies, the fact that there is that distance, they don't have to do the face-to-face thing, it makes it a little bit easier.
Well, then you take the people in the media, sports players that we've heard about recently, and some of the role models that people have in society bully other role models in society. So I think kids try to mimic that behavior. They think it's okay because the adults do it, our icons do it, so therefore we can do it, it's accepted behavior.
Right, and it makes it harder because we're out here trying to, especially in the schools are very focused on preventing it. So here they are trying to, teach them, the responsible way to use technology, and the adults and the situation of the sports that you were talking about aren't setting a good example. And that's key more than anything, the adults in the child's life setting the example. That is so key, coupled with education.
Well, and then you talk about the upcoming campaigns, the presidential campaigns, and the commercials that go on with that, the bullying that goes back and forth. Again, people see this and they think that that's acceptable, and that's not really acceptable with relationships. And it's no wonder that our kids take that behavior and apply it in technology. So what kind of apps do we have that are available?
There are several apps, and the first thing I want to say is no matter what device you carry, a Windows, an iPhone, an Android, a BlackBerry, whatever your app store is on that device, if you're a parent, go in there, enter the apps, and just type in bullying, and you will see all the different apps that are available. Some have a cost, some are free. So some of the ones I was going to talk about, they're all free with the exception of one that's 99 cents. One of them is called Bully Stop. And basically the app allows you to block calls, text messages, picture messaging, because again, sexting is an issue, from reaching your child. You go in, and by then the child is known, they probably know who's calling and they recognize the number, so you go in and create a list of those numbers so that they cannot get through to your child's device. The text messages, the calls, the picture messaging will all be blocked. The good thing is, though, is that And you can also, with that app, you can record audio. So if it's a physical confrontation, it can be recorded, and the child can go to the relevant people, like maybe the school, the police resource officer at the school, the principal, your parent, and say, this is what's happening. Because a lot of times kids will just say, so-and-so is bullying me, and when they ask, well, how? This way you have a way of saying, this is what's happening, and I've been dealing with this for some time now. So,
and here's some proof of it.
Yes.
Now, is this a parental control app, or is this something that the child can manipulate themselves?
Well, this is an app that they download to the phone. No, they can use it. It's on their phone. So when it's happening, like I said, they're able to record the thing. It's not a parental control. There are parental controls out there that can also help with that, but this is actually an app that's on the child's phone.
Okay.
Another app, which is similar to that, is called Bully Block.
Okay.
And what that one does is the same thing. It blocks the text, the calls, and the picture messaging, but it also keeps a password protected call log. So again, you have evidence. See, look how many times this person is trying to, bully me, and it's an ongoing problem. So you have some evidence there. There's another app that's called Tip Submit Mobile. You may be familiar with Tip Submit. And it's like a Crime Stoppers app, but the good thing about it is a lot of kids won't report bullying if it's done to them or someone else because they're afraid of repercussions.
Right.
So this lets them do it anonymously, and it's connected to a database of like 1,000 agencies. Like if you go in there, you'll see St. Lucie County Crime Stoppers or Indian River County Crime Stoppers. It'll have a list of the schools that participate in it so that the kid can go in, put what happened, choose which agency they want it to go to, and it's been done anonymously, but they're doing something about it.
Right.
And that's a free app. The ones I've talked about so far are free. The Bully button costs 99 cents. That one's available on iPhones and iPads. And it's like a panic button, basically. If the child is in a situation where danger is imminent, they can push the one button where it calls their one primary contact, and then it kicks in, it automatically starts recording audio, and that the audio message is sent via attachment an email to your other people that you've pre-programmed into that phone, so they know what's going on. And it also, sadly, that it's even needed, has a button for the suicide hotline, so that if the person's at a point where they think that I can't take this anymore, they can just push that one button and talk to the suicide hotline and try to get some help that way.
Wow, a lot of phenomenal resources. As technology moves on, we become more and more reliant on that.
Right.
And I think one of the important components, and we talked about this beforehand before we shot the segment, was the parental involvement.
Yes.
With these apps. These apps are great, they're wonderful, but if a parent doesn't take the time to sit down with their child and talk to them about bullying, make themselves available, as busy as we are as parents with our lives and our jobs and keeping things straight around the house, to make ourselves available to our children so that together with the technology that you have, you've also got that resource as a person to be able to work you through this.
Exactly. And the thing is, technology is not going to go away. We're only going to have more of it. So it is so important. It goes back to the whole texting and driving, to talk to your kid and say, look, yes, this is a wonderful thing. It can help us in many ways, but you've got to be responsible with the technology. And that's the key thing. And then not just talking about it, but leading by example. Because again, with the texting and driving, I told you the survey we did, 77% of the teens said, oh yeah, well, adults have talked to us about texting and driving, but they do it themselves. It's not gonna hold water if you're not putting action behind your words.
Right. Well, and similarly with cyber bullying and texting bullying, in many cases that I've looked at, and I've had a history of being a school resource deputy, I was a school resource supervisor for a while, there were times where the now victim is claiming that they're being victim of bullying, but they were also involved in sending information too, and there is a level, like you said, of responsibility that if I'm going to open this door, I'm going to have to expect a response. I've got a responsibility on my part. My children, your children have a responsibility on their part to not open that door for other people, so that when other people start bullying them, they've got that information in the phone, because I'm sure just as much as we've got evidence on the person bullying them, there's evidence of what I'm sending out as well.
Exactly. And that's why kids need to take a stand. And you and I had mentioned briefly, we talked about Pink Shirt Day. There's National Pink Shirt Day, there's International Pink Shirt Day, but the whole way that came about is a teen in Canada, I think he was a 9th grader, wore a pink shirt to school one day, and he got bullied big time. And 2 other high school boys who witnessed it, which I thought was so great of them, decided that they were going to go to this little general store, and they bought 50 pink shirts, brought them back to the school, and had a bunch of other students wear those shirts in support of the boy that was bullied and to stand up against bullying. So it is important that if, you know, you're a student in school and you witness this, that you stand up against it. You say something to someone.
Is there a specific day that Pink Shirt Day takes place on?
Well, there's National Pink Shirt Day, which happens on February 26th, and then International Pink Shirt Day happens in October. Some schools celebrate it on the 26th of February, some wait and do it in October for the International Day.
So one thing that the people need to do is just check with their local school district to find out when that's going to be.
And trust me, they will let you know, because I already have been getting, they send home flyers from the school saying, you know, if you can, dress your child in pink on this date, so they'll let you know when they're going to be celebrating it, because all the schools participate in it.
Awesome. Well, Kelly, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Very good information. When we come back, we're going to speak with Deputy Sheriff Shirley Lindstadt from our School Resource Unit to talk about the anti-bullying campaign on the local level. Don't go away. You won't want to miss this. Welcome back to 10-8. We're going to continue our topic on anti-bullying, and we have with us now Deputy Shirley Lindstadt of the School Resource Unit. She's a veteran law enforcement officer who is currently assigned to the schools. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your career.
Well, I started my career with the Florida Highway Patrol in 1988. I was a state trooper until 2003. During that 16-year stint, I was a traffic homicide investigator, but basically did nothing but traffic, and my heart needed more than that. So the opportunity to switch agencies came, and I took it, and worked on the road for a little while until I was able to get into the school resource office, or the school resource program, which I'm finding was really what my passion was. That was that missing ingredient for me. I've enjoyed it. I will probably retire in this unit because I embrace the fact that there's so much more that we can do proactively, especially where kids are concerned, than reactively. So.
Well, good. That's we've had Kelly on the show earlier, Kelly Starling from AT&T, talking about some of the technology that AT&T uses with regards to anti-bullying, and you also are involved in programs to help support that and to also drive that point home with the kids and the parents that you are involved with in the school. So tell us a little bit about that involvement.
Well, our initial involvement with Kelly Starling and AT&T was through the anti-texting and driving initiative. They've now started some issues with anti-bullying, and I'm actually looking forward to becoming parts of those programs as well. But it's really just a need, obviously, in today's world that needs to be filled with something. You know, we are a supply and demand society, and it's tragic, but so many of our young people are succumbing to things like self-harm and things of that nature because they're just not equipped with the proper tools to cope and manage all the things that they're having to emotionally manage. I think a lot of that, there are probably a lot of reasons for that. The technology being so vast and not even understood by a lot of the parents at this point because it's, it's so new.
Well, it grows rapidly.
Absolutely, and it's better understood by the kids, so a lot of parents are finding themselves feeling a little bit helpless because their kids are getting involved in situations where they're being either bullied or harassed or embarrassed over social network and over technology through text messages. And it's not like in the past, you could speak in a small group and then that small group would have that bad information about you. Now they can text bomb people and reach hundreds of people in an instant, and now everywhere you go, if there's something embarrassing that happened or something, it's like everybody knows about it. And that's kind of hard for young people that don't have those coping mechanisms in place yet to deal with. So
how do you deal with that? I mean, I remember in my assignment as a school resource deputy and ultimately a supervisor, we were dealing with bullying constantly. And in some cases it may have violated the law, in many cases it didn't. But how are you dealing with those cases as they come up? I mean, what resources do you have available through training or counseling in as much of a sense as a deputy can do to the students in the schools?
Well, first and foremost, let me just say, and I know that you know this, but a lot of your viewing audience may not, bullying is not illegal. And bullying is something that has been around forever. And bullying is another one of those things in nature that is the opposite of the good things that we want to take out of life. Yes. So it's going to be important for us to teach our kids at a very young age now, especially because you've got younger and younger kids involved in, the internet and,
Yes.
and stuff. But it's important to teach our kids at a very young age some of the basic values that I find are absent nowadays. Things like the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Right.
And if you don't have anything positive to say, then don't say anything
say
at
it
all.
right.
Those things are very absent, and I find them replaced with what children are watching on television. And I'm not sitting here pointing the finger at television. Television is an entertainment industry. But what I'm finding in a lot of these investigations that I do end up doing, because either a battery or a stalking has occurred as a result of bullying behaviors, is that a lot of the kids are left to their own devices. They are
Right.
watching what they want to watch. They're unsupervised. There's not a parent or a guardian there that's kind of telling them, hey, while this is entertaining and it makes you laugh, it's not reality.
You hit on a very important point. Television industry is not necessarily bad, but absent strong parenting, absent that guidance, that's what they've got left. They've got the television, they've got the internet, they've got texting, they've got their technology to keep them busy. And those things left unto themselves can be detrimental to
Absolutely.
the development of a child. And we talked with Kelly earlier, when we've got sports figures that are bullying each other in locker rooms, and we've got campaigns for political office that are getting ready to take place here in the near future, where you look at a lot of the commercials and they seem to be bullying one another. And that's, if kids are left to watch that, they think without strong parenting that's the norm, that's okay.
And they are
And
watching
act on
it.
Yes, they do.
We're a very, and it's no more evident than in our children, we are a very instantaneous society. We want instant gratification. And when you listen to kids nowadays, when they have to do something structured like school, it's like, oh, this is boring. Well, guess what? The world's not here to entertain you,
Right.
but our young people feel that it is. So they turn very readily to their electronic devices, and they're constantly scouring things like YouTube, watching the what do they call them, the viral videos,
Yeah.
because 9 times out of 10 they're either really, really weird and grotesque, or they're funny and entertaining.
Right.
And I think that, I wish I had the answer to how we go forward from here. The only thing that I know for sure as a parent myself is that as parents we need to wake up and we need to step up to the plate. And we need to make that time and spend that time with our
Yes.
kids, and we need to start early. We can't expect to have left our children to their own devices, and then at teenagers, when they start to show some, and anymore it's in middle school, they're not even teenagers, they're starting to act out those issues that they have now. It's too late at that point to come in and just want it to be perfect.
Right.
So then they want to turn it to make it the school's fault or make it a law enforcement issue. This is something that collectively as a community we are going to have to start making changes with.
Well,
And
so
it's
you mentioned the
gotta
parents,
start early.
and you start early and investing the time in your children. And even as a parent, and it may be off topic, but yesterday one of my children mentioned to me, a negative comment about their body shape. And that was one of those moments where I had to stop what I was doing and say, all right, let's talk about this for just a minute.
Teachable moment.
It's a teachable moment, and I think all too often we get busy with our lives and we don't take that opportunity. If a child comes to me, if one of my children comes and said, Daddy, I'm being bullied, or I did have my 7-year-old the other day said that somebody at the school called her a loser. And I said, well, tell me about that. And I tried to reinforce to her, you are not a loser. Don't worry about what other people think of you, because your parents love you and your sisters love you, and we care about you, and there's a lot of other people around you that care about you. So don't let that bother you. Don't even worry about that. And you could see that her whole demeanor changed in that interaction. But again, very easily, I could have been very busy and miss that moment. And I think that's what you're talking about.
Absolutely. And I'm certainly not sitting here judging, because as parents, especially in our economy, we have it difficult. It takes 2 parents working just to make ends meet most of the time. But we became parents by choice. It is something that we got ourselves into, whether it was accidental or not, is irrelevant. We are still the parents, so we have to be accountable for our children. And there are so many things about society now that have changed from generations past, and I really think that we need to start looking at what worked in generations past and what we need to start bringing back.
Well, we've talked about strategies that we give to parents, and I know we're going to be coming to a close soon. What tips would you give to school students that you deal with, the tips that you give them now? What can we tell our viewers, the student body, that they can do if they're in fact being bullied?
Well, first and foremost, when anybody comes to me with a bullying complaint, I talk to everybody, especially if there was something criminal. Generally, the school staff will handle just a bullying complaint initially. If during their investigation they find that there have been some crimes that have occurred, then they turn it over to us, and then we further look into it. The majority of the cases that I get, though, truly, and I don't say this lightly, truly are mutual conflicts. There are very rare one-sided, repeated harassment going on. It's usually two people involved and both equally contributing by either spreading rumors or talking behind people's backs, and then one just happens to be the weaker and ends up now that they want to say that they're being bullied. That's not always the case. So I think it's very important that we identify that, because if we just always take away the controversial person but never help the person who's antagonizing that controversy, then we're not doing any justice to anyone.
The antagonist may not be the one that actually, was prompting this or got this whole thing started. And I understand that. So I guess what we can learn out of this is that we need to monitor our own behavior. Our children need to monitor their own behavior before they get involved into a conflict. And if they see it headed down the road of conflict, take the high road. Back out of that.
And as parents, I know we always want to believe our children, but we have to kind of listen to things and get involved at the school level a little more, instead of just assuming that it's true what our kids are saying. I know they feel hurt and they feel like they're being bullied, but we have to get to the bottom of what maybe did they do to contribute to it, so that we can help them to be better people. To simply, we're living in an age now. If I had a parent conference and my teacher was saying something to me, my parents would be the next people that I would have to be afraid of, because they were like, "What? You're telling me this?" Now you have a parent-teacher conference and the parents are like, "How dare you talk to my kid this way? How dare you suspend my child?" That's a really dangerous road that they're going down.
It's kind of supporting the children too, and
But there's a right way and a wrong way to support your children. You want your children to understand that I'm here to back you, but you have to allow me to back you when you're doing things right.
Correct.
If you do things wrong, we'll suck it up. We'll take our knocks
let's
for
learn
it.
from it.
But I will still love you, and we'll learn from it and move on.
Absolutely.
Now people just, I don't know, I really don't know where parenting has gone, but it's befuddling.
Well, we do the best as we can on an individual basis.
Absolutely.
Now you are available, not just as a deputy sheriff, but if someone's dealing with bullying in their family, I know that your first step of dealing with the problem is not necessarily arrest or formal investigation, but you're available to counsel students. If parents have questions, we don't want law enforcement to seem like, well, we only get involved with law enforcement if it's really bad. If there's a bullying issue starting, or that the parents feel that it's starting, or a student does, they can always come and speak to you.
Absolutely. Correct? And the school board actually has a very good anti-bullying policy in place. They have it right on the website, to where a parent doesn't even have to take off of work to come in to file a bullying complaint. You file it online. It's on the parent page for the St. Louis County School Board, and then it goes to the respective dean at the school that you list your child at.
You guys work with the deans.
We work with the deans, and basically it's been a collaborative effort to where we help them with some of the investigative tools that they may need in this. What they're looking for is corroboration, evidence basically. And if they find that there is evidence and that it is a one-sided bullying situation, then there are administrative consequences, usually in the form of suspension, things of that nature that they have in place, interventions. If it is substantiated and, say, 6 months down the line, this same person is bullying somebody else, maybe even the same person, which I have had the situation occur, and then a battery, say a fight escalates out of it and a battery occurs, which I'm actually investigating something similar to that right now, then at that point I feel comfortable knowing that we've educated this child, we've told them what they're doing wrong and why it's wrong. And the next time they do it, now they're doing it with an informed capacity. Now they're doing it intentionally, obviously. And when we find intent in the adult world, we act accordingly. So there have been some criminal charges that have come out of it, usually battery, sometimes stalking. But that shouldn't be our first go-to.
No.
They're children, after all. Even the bully is a child. And 9 times out of 10, bullies are kids that are bullied by either older siblings, or sometimes even parents are bullying their kids. And it's a learned behavior, is my point. And you can't give up on all of them, but you can educate them and then leave it to their devices to try to apply that.
Well, we thank you for being on the show. That our goal here, obviously, as you've mentioned, is to deter.
Absolutely.
and to stop it from happening. We thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
You're welcome.
If any of our viewers have any information that they would like to get out of our school resource program, you can certainly call the Sheriff's Office. When we return, we will meet with Russ Cullum from our Crime Prevention Unit to find out more tips that will help keep you safe. Don't go away. Welcome back to 10-8. We have with us today Russ Cullum from the Crime Prevention Unit. Again, Russ, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Sarge.
All right, so we got some trends going on. I guess we had some burglaries up in Lakewood Park.
We did, sir. There were residential burglaries, crime of opportunities. Most of the cars were unlocked. I believe 80% were unlocked vehicles. And luckily, with some intelligence, we've made some arrests.
Yeah, the intelligence-led policing. I happened to work on midnight shift as one of the squad supervisors, and midnight shift had received, all the shifts had received some information from the intelligence-led policing unit of a possible suspect vehicle, partial tag, and one of our deputies, one of our trainees actually, it was one of our deputies in field training, actually spotted that vehicle, stopped the car, and in the process of the ensuing minutes, all of this case began to unravel as evidence started showing up in plain view in the car, and it led to several arrests, and I believe up to 50 cases are currently being cleared on that.
Yes, sir. It was a little bit over 50 cases. I believe it was 54.
Yeah.
And cleared by arrest, which is what we want.
That's phenomenal. Now, you had mentioned earlier about this as being crimes of opportunity. Unlock doors, unlock cars again, which seems to be the recurring pattern that we see. Tips to our residents. What do they need to be doing?
They need, one, not to keep valuables inside their vehicle whatsoever. And they should secure their vehicle and their homes. Keep everything locked up. If you're going to put a handgun, a wallet in plain view, even if the car is locked, it still could be a smash and grab.
Yep.
And take the valuables. So
Expect it to be stolen if you
Absolutely.
leave it out like that.
Absolutely.
And that's a good rule to go by anyway. If it's equipped with a lock, use it. If it's not equipped with a lock, get a lock. Bungee cord it. All right. So, we also have, coming up at summertime, we've got a lot of beach activity going on, and we want our citizens to also beware of beach burglaries that take place in cars. So some tips that our citizens can follow with that.
Well, also with that, we also have the snowbirds down here, so our populations increase.
Yeah.
And they might have not tracked what's going on with St. Lucie County during crime trends. The biggest thing, again, is the same thing. Lock your vehicle. Don't have your valuables in plain view. When I go to the beach personally, anything of value is already in the trunk before I leave my house.
Yes.
Because no one sees me putting it into the trunk.
Right.
Nowadays, cars are equipped with a trunk release mechanism
Yes.
inside the car that doesn't have to be on. So I rather not give the person the perception that there's valuables.
Right. Oh, would-be criminals at the beach are going to see you put your purse or your valuable items in the trunk and shut it, and then when they come back and find that their trunk's been broken into, I don't know how they knew that was in there. Well, if you put it in there while you're there, people see it, crime of opportunity. So
Exactly.
Same thing that we talked about with Christmas,
Absolutely.
in the holidays.
And with our beaches getting busier, people aren't going to be so suspicious of somebody hanging out by a car. And we go down on the beach, all of a sudden this person knows we left the area. He knows he's got some distance
Right.
in order to commit the crime.
Right. So law enforcement can't be all places at all times, but the citizens, and it's a partnership. The citizens
Absolutely.
can work to protect themselves, help us to protect them, but if they take some simple steps, locking their stuff, keeping things out of plain view. I believe at one point when we were doing stats and crime prevention, better than 50% of the burglaries that we had were unlocked items, cars or vehicles. So
Yes, sir.
it goes a long way.
It sure does.
Well, Russ, we thank you for being on the show, and we
sir.
always look forward to hearing tips from you because it does help our community stay safe.
Thanks, sir.
When we return, we will be meeting with Sheriff Ken Mascara, who's going to talk about current happenings within the Sheriff's Office. Don't go away. Welcome back to 10-8. We're joined now by the Sheriff, and Sheriff, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris.
As we're taping this today, we're actually observing this week, the 1-year anniversary of Sergeant Morales' murder, and we've had some significant changes in the Sheriff's Office as a result of that. Why don't you tell us and our viewers, what we've been doing and what we're facing?
First of all, this past year has been tough on us as an agency because we considered Gary part of our family, and his family is hurting. Our family continues to hurt, but we've moved on. One thing that has come from Sergeant Morales' death and passing was initiatives in our training that he actually wanted instituted. And that being, he felt that we were not training our deputies in the arena of having them shoot from their car to an adversary. So after his death, we acquired a car that actually had some flood damage. We retrofitted it to accommodate the training, and we've instituted that training. And sadly, that is how Sergeant Morales was murdered. He was murdered in his own car by someone firing into it. So it's just ironic that now we're training our deputies to respond to that.
Well, and to bring it real, I went through that training as part of the instructor staff and the training development committee, and we, it's very kind of a somber moment. These are tactics that we need to do. Knowing that Gary was instrumental in designing this car, he wanted this kind of training, and almost a year later, we're implementing that training. The training is going on as we're taping this now. That quarter, that block of training is actually happening now, and I think the deputies are taking it that much more seriously.
Oh, by all means, they are.
Because they've seen what happens out there in the world with what happened with Sergeant Morales, and now they're training to that higher level. There's that determination, that resolve,
right?
And we're still learning as a result of this tragedy of ways that we can better protect ourselves.
By all means, and who would have thought that someone as well trained as Sergeant Morales, as just as well prepared as he was, being on the SWAT team, being a defensive tactics trainer, being just in great shape, that someone can get the upper hand on him and kill him before he even had a chance to pull his gun out of his holster. So this training is going to benefit our troops years to come.
Yeah, by virtue of the fact that he had designed this, the training unit also is being nominated, or actually awarded recently, a unit citation
in a couple of weeks.
In part because of what Sergeant Morales had done. This was last year, 2013, was actually the first year that we had a full-time training staff.
That is correct.
And Gary was instrumental in getting that started.
That is correct. So sad to say that he is gone, but a lot of great things have come as a result of his passing.
His legacy lives on.
His legacy lives on. And that's what it's all about.
Sheriff, thank you for being on the show.
You're welcome, Chris. Thanks for having me.
If you have any questions for Sheriff Mascara, please submit them through our Twitter account or our Facebook account, and you can also learn more information about the Sheriff's Office through stluciesheriff.com. Until next time, stay safe.